One shot is what it's all about. The Deer Hunter was not just a Vietnam War movie. It was a test of faith, loyalty, and madness. It tore open the American soul at a time when the wounds of the war still bled fresh. Behind its haunting silences and devastating Russian roulette scenes was chaos that nearly consumed everyone involved. Explosions, misfires, walkouts, nervous breakdowns, and a director who demanded real pain from his cast. What happened behind the camera was as brutal as what appeared on screen. In this deep dive, we uncover 20 weird facts about the Deer Hunter that reveal how far everyone went to capture truth. Fact number 20. The script that no one believed in. When the first draft of The Deer Hunter circulated around Hollywood, no one wanted it. Studios called it too long, too bleak, too strange. Even the script's title confused executives. Michael Cimino rewrote it multiple times, tearing out entire sections about Pennsylvania life and adding layers of ritual and friendship. He fought to keep the structure that opened with a wedding and ended with death because he believed the film should mirror life itself. The irony was that the scenes people wanted to cut became the movie's heart. Universal finally took the gamble after Cimino's desperate insistence that it would redefine war cinema. It did exactly that. Fact number 19. Robert De Niro went to hell for the role. Robert De Niro refused to fake anything. He visited steel mills in Pennsylvania, worked side by side with real workers, and lived in their town to absorb their rhythm. During filming, he performed many of his own stunts and nearly drowned in a helicopter sequence over a river in Thailand. De Niro and Cimino clashed constantly because the actor believed the director was pushing realism into cruelty, but De Niro stayed because he saw something sacred in the chaos. What emerged was a performance that stripped him to the bone. Audiences did not see a movie star. They saw a man broken by war and haunted by memory. Fact number 18. Christopher Walken starved himself. Christopher Walken's Nick looked haunted for a reason. The actor dropped weight drastically, eating little more than rice and water during the Vietnam sequences. He slept on set to stay in character as a prisoner of war. Cimino encouraged the deprivation, pushing Walken to the edge of collapse. During the Russian roulette scene, his trembling was not acting. It was real physical exhaustion. Walken later admitted he hated how far it went, but understood why. That fragility became the essence of Nick. In the end, it won him an Oscar and cemented his legend as the actor who could make madness look heartbreakingly human. Fact number 17. Meryl Streep's heartbreaking reality. Meryl Streep's performance as Linda carried real grief. During filming, she was in a relationship with John Cazale, who played Stan. Cazale was terminally ill with cancer and died before the film's release. Cimino wanted to fire him after discovering his illness, but De Niro and Streep threatened to walk off the set if he was removed. Universal reluctantly kept Cazale but refused to insure him. The cast and crew protected him fiercely, finishing his scenes before he became too weak to continue. Every tear Streep shed came from that loss. The film became both a memorial and a goodbye. Fact number 16. The Russian roulette myth. What audiences never knew is that the Russian roulette scenes were pure invention. No historical records ever confirmed such acts by soldiers in Vietnam. Cimino and writer Derek Washburn created it as a metaphor for the randomness of war and the illusion of control. The cast hated it at first. De Niro called it reckless. Walken said it bordered on sadism. But Cimino refused to change it, claiming it was the only way to show the insanity that devours men in war. The sequence shocked the world. It became both the film's signature and its greatest controversy. Fact number 15. The helicopter that almost killed them. During one of the film's most harrowing sequences in Vietnam, a helicopter was supposed to hover above the river while the characters escaped from their captors. What no one expected was the storm that rolled in mid-take. The rotors sliced through the wind with terrifying force as debris and spray slammed into the cast. De Niro and Walken were inside the cage when the pilot lost control. The helicopter dipped dangerously close to the water, threatening to crash. Cimino refused to cut the camera, yelling for them to keep going. When they finally escaped, both men were shaking, drenched, and near shock. The footage was kept in the film exactly as shot. What the audience sees is not acting. It is real fear recorded forever. The crew later called it the most dangerous shoot they had ever survived. Fact number 14. Michael Cimino's obsession with perfection. Michael Cimino demanded absolute control. He redesigned sets at the last minute, repainted buildings, and made extras rehearse the same actions for days. The wedding scene took 5 days to shoot, though it was meant to take 1. He filmed entire takes in silence just to test emotion. When producers protested about the budget spiraling beyond control, Cimino locked them out of the editing room. He believed the film was a sacred project and refused interference. His perfectionism became both his genius and his downfall. Every frame glowed with authenticity, but behind it were crew members collapsing from exhaustion. The irony is that this obsession created one of the most haunting portraits of American pain, yet destroyed the trust between Cimino and the studio forever. Fact number 13. Real bullets in the air. The battle scenes in The Deer Hunter were not safe movie illusions. In several takes, Cimino used live ammunition to make the explosions look authentic. Actors dove for cover, unaware of how close some rounds came to hitting them. One stunt performer was injured when a fragment of metal lodged in his shoulder. Cimino's defense was that audiences could always tell when something looked fake, and he refused to compromise realism. De Niro nearly walked off the set after the second incident, but stayed to protect the other cast members. The result was intensity that could never be replicated. The war scenes pulse with danger because they were born from real danger. Watching them even now, you can feel the tension that hung over the set like smoke. Fact number 12. The wedding that wouldn't end. The opening wedding sequence in Clairton, Pennsylvania seems joyful and endless, and it was meant to be. Cimino insisted on filming a full wedding with a real priest, real food, and real alcohol. The extras were locals who drank heavily between takes, turning the set into a wild celebration that spiraled out of control. By day 3, the church smelled of beer and sweat. Cameras rolled through laughter and chaos, while De Niro quietly observed everything, taking mental notes for later scenes. Cimino shot over 1 million feet of film just for that sequence. When editors tried to cut it down, he fought to keep it long, arguing that it was the soul of the movie. The studio hated it, but audiences later said it captured the beauty of life before the horror began. Fact number 11. The nightmares after the shoot. When filming ended, the cast could not shake the darkness. De Niro returned home, but struggled to sleep. Walken said he woke from dreams of being trapped in the prison camp. Even extras who appeared briefly in the Vietnam scenes reported nightmares about drowning in captivity. Cimino himself isolated for months during editing, barely speaking to anyone. The movie had drained everyone involved. It was not just a performance, it was a psychic wound. Yet that shared suffering created the authenticity that made The Deer Hunter so haunting. The line between acting and reality dissolved completely, leaving behind a film that feels less like fiction and more like a collective trauma etched into celluloid. Go ahead and like and subscribe, because the next 10 facts plunge even deeper into the madness behind the making of The Deer Hunter, including the betrayals, the explosions, and the shocking final truth that almost destroyed its creator. Fact number 10. The town that became a character. Clairton, Pennsylvania was not a Hollywood backlot. It was a real working-class town that Michael Cimino transformed into a cinematic poem of steel and sorrow. Locals were hired as extras, and entire streets were repainted to match his vision of industrial decay. The people of Clairton loved and hated the crew. They were proud their home was immortalized, yet frustrated by the endless disruptions. Trucks blocked main roads. Bars were commandeered for all-night shoots. Cimino's crew replaced real wedding banners with prop ones and painted over store signs without asking. But when the film premiered, the town wept. They saw their lives, their pride, and their exhaustion reflected on screen. The Deer Hunter did not just use Clairton. It captured the heartbeat of the American working class in one unforgettable portrait of lost innocence. Fact number 9. John Savage's real injuries. During the violent escape sequence where Stephen hangs from a helicopter over the river, actor John Savage performed the stunt himself. What began as a controlled scene turned disastrous when the chopper dipped too low. Savage hit the water at full speed and shattered his knee. The scream that echoes through that shot is genuine agony. Cimino kept rolling, refusing to cut, until Savage dragged himself onto the rocks. He was hospitalized immediately after and continued filming on crutches weeks later. The realism of that moment haunts viewers because it was not staged. It was the sound of an actor's body breaking for his craft. Savage never fully recovered, but he called that scene his proudest moment because it proved that truth often hurts. Fact number 8. The studio's war against the director. Universal Pictures thought they were funding a modest war drama. What they got was a 3-hour epic and a budget that doubled without warning. Executives flew to the set to confront Cimino, but he refused to see them. He screened unfinished footage with no music, no color correction, and no explanation. The studio panicked. They considered pulling the plug, but De Niro intervened, using his influence to protect the film. Cimino promised he would deliver a masterpiece, and he did, but at a cost. The Deer Hunter went 3 months over schedule and millions over budget. It made enemies in every executive office, yet walked away with 5 Oscars. The price of artistic freedom was chaos, and no one who worked on it ever forgot the scars. Fact number 7. The Russian roulette scene almost went fatal. The most famous moment in The Deer Hunter almost became a real tragedy. During filming in Thailand, the gun used for the Russian roulette sequence was loaded with a single blank round. Cimino told De Niro and Walken to press it against their heads and pull the trigger for authenticity. They refused at first, but the director pushed them until they gave in. In one take, the blank discharged too close to Walken's temple, burning his skin. The set went silent. Cimino did not apologize. He simply said it looked perfect. Walken later described the moment as pure terror. That wound was minor, but symbolic. It showed how dangerously blurred the line had become between performance and survival on The Deer Hunter. Fact number 6. The real veterans who walked out. When The Deer Hunter premiered, some Vietnam veterans called it powerful. Others called it betrayal. At a special screening organized for former soldiers, dozens walked out during the Russian roulette sequence. They said it mocked their suffering and distorted history. Protests erupted outside theaters across the United States. Cimino defended his vision, calling it psychological truth rather than literal history. Yet for many veterans, it reopened wounds that never healed. The debate continues even today. Was it exploitation or revelation? The controversy made The Deer Hunter infamous, but also immortal. It forced America to confront a question it still struggles with. How much truth can art reveal before it becomes unbearable? Fact number 5. The church bells that wouldn't stop. The wedding scene was supposed to end with a simple moment of joy as the newlyweds exited the church, but Cimino wanted something more haunting. He ordered the church bells to ring continuously while cameras rolled on every extra leaving the building. The bells echoed through Clairton for nearly 2 hours, driving locals mad. Town residents complained to police while cast members begged Cimino to cut the sound. He refused. He said the bells symbolized the fragile peace before the storm of war. When editors tried to shorten the scene, Cimino fought back, claiming that the bells held the rhythm of life itself. That single decision stretched a few minutes of film into one of the most unforgettable openings in cinema history. Every clang of the bell became a countdown to tragedy. Fact number 4. The first screening left audiences in shock. When The Deer Hunter first screened for test audiences, many viewers could not move from their seats. Some cried, others stormed out in anger. Studio executives expected applause, but instead faced stunned silence. Cimino sat in the back scribbling notes while people filed out with haunted faces. Even the projectionist said it felt less like a movie and more like a funeral. Yet those reactions convinced Cimino he had achieved something powerful. He wanted the audience to feel the same exhaustion and numbness as the soldiers in the film. When it finally premiered publicly, critics called it brutal, honest, and unforgettable. The confusion turned into awe. The Deer Hunter became a cultural event, redefining what a war movie could be. Fact number 3. The real bar and the piano scene. The bar where the friends gather before shipping off to Vietnam was not a soundstage. It was a real tavern filled with locals who refused to act. Cimino told them to drink as they normally would and just ignore the cameras. During one take, De Niro noticed a dusty piano in the corner and started playing Chopin from memory. The moment stunned the room into silence. Cimino quietly told the crew to roll film. That spontaneous act became one of the most emotional scenes in the movie. The music floated like a prayer over faces filled with dread and love. It was not in the script. It was born from instinct and humanity. It captured the last pure moment before the horror began. Fact number 2. The ending. That broke everyone. The final scene, in which the surviving friends gather to sing God Bless America, was a point of furious debate. Cimino fought everyone over it. The studio called it too sentimental. The actors said it felt wrong to end such pain with a patriotic song, but Cimino insisted that the song was not about pride. It was about loss. It was America singing to its own ghosts. When they filmed it, the set was silent. Streep, De Niro, and Savage had tears in their eyes that were not scripted. What came through that scene was not triumph, but mourning. That quiet finale turned The Deer Hunter from a war story into a requiem. Fact number 1. The Oscars that sparked outrage. At the 1979 Academy Awards, The Deer Hunter swept the ceremony, winning Best Picture, Best Director, and Best Supporting Actor. But the celebration was not without backlash. Outside the theater, protesters denounced the film for its portrayal of Vietnamese characters, calling it racist and dishonest. Cimino ignored the noise, standing proudly as his cast wept on stage. The win made him a legend overnight, but it also marked the beginning of his downfall. The power he gained would lead him to make Heaven's Gate a film that destroyed his career. The Deer Hunter gave him glory and ruin in equal measure. It remains both a masterpiece and a warning about the price of obsession. Bonus fact: the song that carried real farewell. The haunting theme Cavatina was not written for The Deer Hunter. It was composed years earlier by Stanley Myers, but almost forgotten. Cimino rediscovered it while searching for a sound that felt like memory itself. When the music played on set, Meryl Streep broke down in tears because it reminded her of John Cazale, who was fading away during filming. Cimino kept the moment and later built the film's emotional rhythm around that melody. Cavatina became inseparable from the movie's soul. It plays like a farewell to the fallen and to innocence itself. Even decades later, it still drifts through the air like smoke from a steel mill, aching, gentle, and eternal. The Deer Hunter remains a film born of fire madness and love. It captured an era that refused to heal and turned pain into poetry. It showed that the deepest truths are found not in words, but in silence. If you felt the weight of this story, go ahead and like and subscribe, because every film hides secrets, and these are only the beginning.